just getting started, setting up the different social streams. Okay, so let's just let folks know that we're here and make sure this is all working fine. Good. All right. Here we go. Live. Let's go. Are we live on YouTube? How would I tell that? I need some kind of producer for this kind of thing. All right. Don't seem to be live on YouTube. Maybe I am. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. If you joined right at the beginning, thank you for bearing with me while I got the technology set up. As always, I'm Will Critchlow, founder and CEO at SearchPilot, and I'm doing these conversations every week where I want to dive into different angles of what's going on with SEO testing, in particular, what we're doing at SearchPilot, broader SEO and search questions, and I think I've also got some other fun little segments, particularly things I'm reading or watching or that I found useful and interesting recently. Quite often they're going to be on Tuesday afternoons, but just occasionally they will be at other times when I can't make that Tuesday slot. So I think the easiest way to follow along is to follow me at Will Critchlow on Twitter or on LinkedIn, well, same handle, or SearchPilot on YouTube at SearchPilot channel is an easy place to kind of stream those things. And you get notifications when we go live. If you're more interested broadly and you want to find out more resources about what we do at SearchPilot, how SEO testing works, and other links and interesting things that I found useful that I've talked about, if you head to searchpilot.com/live, you can sign up there to get a demo if you want, and you can find a bunch of resources and things that you might find useful. So what I wanted to talk about, first of all today, was a question that comes up an awful lot. I speak to a lot of folks in the industry who ask about how to coordinate SEO and CRO testing. So CRO testing is what many people just think of as A/B testing. Traditional testing, you might have heard it as user experience testing, conversion rate testing. It's essentially when you're running experiments on your website to find out whether a change helps improve the key metric that you care about, which in many cases is conversions, sales. If you're an e-commerce website, for example, it's going to be about increasing, most often it's going to be about increasing sales, sometimes about increasing average order value or lifetime value, those kinds of things. And many organizations have been running these kinds of tests for a lot longer than they've been running SEO tests. And obviously a lot of the folks that we speak to are running or are thinking about running SEO tests for the first time, but often already have an experimentation program in place, testing folks, and they're typically running conversion rate testing already. So a common question that comes up is, we've already got an experimentation program. We're already running these conversion rate tests, and we're thinking about running SEO tests. How do those programs fit together? How do they play nicely with each other? And what kind of coordination do we need to do between the two efforts? And I like at this stage always take a little bit of a step back and say the first thing to realize, the key underlying principle here is that there is coordination required, but there's coordination required between SEO and product, SEO and conversion rate folks, regardless of whether you're running SEO tests or not, regardless of whether you're doing any tests or not. Imagine an environment where you've got a product team that isn't testing and an SEO team that isn't not testing. Even in that situation, you're going to have to coordinate, because it would be very easy for a product team to delete, remove, downgrade, or just change radically an element on the page that the SEO team has been working on enhancing, or vice versa. Imagine a situation where a very common thing that we see is questions around the amount and the position and the prominence of content, copy, text on category pages. So e-commerce, PLPs, categories and subcategories. How much text should you have on that page? Should it be at the top? How prominent should it be? It's a really common question. It's something that a lot of our customers test in a variety of different hypotheses and different ways of approaching that. And imagine that you've got an SEO initiative to enhance and work on rewrite a load of that copy. Meanwhile, your product team is busy with an initiative to move it down the page and make the images larger or something. Now, any of these could be good ideas, any or all of them, none of them might be good ideas. But the key thing is you're going to need to coordinate. And so my view is that the folks responsible for making any kind of change to the website are going to need to work very closely with anyone making SEO-centric hypotheses and SEO-centric changes to the website. I talked a little bit last week about this increasing trend that we've seen of SEO actually sitting within the product org for many large websites. And I think that's only going to be more common. But key point is you need coordination, because if not, you're going to step on each other's toes all the time. You're going to roll out features that aren't good for SEO, or you're going to have an SEO effort that's wasted because you're working on an element that's about to be deleted or removed or downgraded. So you do need to coordinate, but it's not unique to testing. So what we then say is, okay, how do you think about building an effective testing program if both bits are testing? So product is testing and SEO wants to test as well. Now, don't have time today to go deep into the details of the differences between the two kinds of test. If you're interested in how an SEO test actually works, head on over to searchpilot.com/live, and there's a one-pager, some simple resources that can give you that intro. But the key thing to realize is where a conversion rate test or a user experience test is splitting your audience, so splitting your users into control and variant groups. An SEO test is about splitting pages for all users. And the key thing is all users, so it includes Googlebot. Now, what that means is that in the technical, statistical, mathematical language, these two tests can be orthogonal. And what that essentially just means independent. And it means that you can randomize each of these two axes independently of one another. So you can randomize the users and you can randomize the pages separately. And that fundamentally means that for non-conflicting tests, so that these are tests on the same pages, but totally independent to different sections with different hypotheses, you can, in theory, run them simultaneously. So most tests can be run together. Almost all tests can be run together. Some need more care than others. And then there are a few that are essentially impossible, and you're going to need to coordinate in much the same way. And we'll come back to those in a minute. So the way that we think about operationalizing this is most often to think through a simple flowchart and to have it agreed with the relevant stakeholders in product, engineering, SEO, marketing, whoever it might be. And the fundamental, can get more complicated than this, but the most fundamental question is, which pages are we looking to test on, and what are the hypotheses? And we need to know the running and planned SEO tests and the running and planned conversion rate or product tests. And we run them through the flowchart to say, are there any tests where we are running on the same pages and either we have an overlapping hypothesis or we are radically changing the same page element? For example, as I was saying earlier, if one team is about to delete an element, imagine the product team is about to test deleting the copy of a product listing page. You can't simultaneously run an SEO test that tests improving that copy. That's a simple and kind of obvious example. So what we would have is a flowchart that basically tags a test as red, amber, or green. So a red test would be warning, you can only run this test when the other test is finished. So that is, if you're going to improve the text, for example, on the product listing page, the text has to exist on the product listing page. So that's a red test. Those are relatively rare. Amber tests are ones to be careful of, test and make sure that they're not test in a different sense. What do I mean? Run kind of QA on to make sure that they are compatible, but fundamentally the hypotheses are independent, and you are testing different sections. So this would be, I don't know, an SEO test to improve the main header on the page, alongside a product test to add some more confidence copy near the checkout button or the add to cart button, for example. Independent tests on the same pages, probably okay. Let's just test, let's run some QA to make sure that both of those are working. So that would be an amber test. We just need to be aware of each other. And then a green test would be either totally independent, so different pages, different site sections, or completely where the SEO test is non-user centric. So adding a canonical to the page, or modifying some structured data, those kinds of things. Obviously, you're still going to want to do your QA, but it isn't going to particularly relate to the running product test. And so you've got these red, amber, green categorizations. And then with that, we would think about building a RACI. And if you're familiar with RACI, this is a model for understanding who needs to be consulted and informed in different areas. So RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And in the context of these tests, the crucial part is consulted and informed. So does product need to be consulted before this SEO test is run, or do they just need to be informed that this test is going to be run? And you can have different levels for the red, amber, and green within this. Stepping back, the key part is this can be done. And it isn't really any harder, in my view, than just doing on-page SEO in the presence of a product team that is also trying to improve a website and potentially running tests to do that. And that's the key insight, really, is that the fact that you're running these as SEO tests rather than just SEO changes doesn't really change the process. But it is critical that you coordinate well. And the more you do this, the more you come into a kind of testing methodology and testing mindset, the more you are going to get these questions, and the more that you're going to need to have good answers to them. So this is what that looks like, in my view, is this flowchart to categorize test ideas, and then an associated RACI to make everybody comfortable that they're going to hear about these things at the right stage in the process, be consulted if necessary, and certainly informed. This is all of this is part of a broader theme that we're focusing on quite a lot in our work, which is seeing that our responsibility doesn't stop at technology. Right? We provide SEO testing capabilities and software, but actually our kind of broader mission, which is to help prove the value of SEO for the world's biggest websites, that broader mission requires us to help our customers actually build effective experimentation programs, not just run good tests. And we're seeing a big take up of that kind of maturity curve, which goes from not even doing SEO to doing SEO without testing, to running SEO tests, to running SEO tests in conjunction and in partnership with product teams, through to the very top of that maturity curve is kind of running integrated tests, what we call full funnel tests, where you can test individual changes for their impact on both acquisition, so organic search visibility, as well as user behavior on the website, so conversion rate and so forth. And one of the things that we're finding more and more of these organizations that we work with are doing is they're forming a cross-functional testing council. So this is bringing together that experimentation capability from not just the product team and not just the SEO team, but bringing those folks together. And this allows discussion of hypotheses, discussion of the results, analysis of what it means for each other. And those things can spark ideas for new tests for each other. A successful product test might lead to ideas for new SEO initiatives and vice versa. And also ideas can come from anywhere. So we're finding that product individuals who are working in product have hypotheses that affect SEO as well. And as I said, SEO even increasingly sits within product, increasingly for very large websites, especially. So to summarize, this is a question that I find I'm asked very frequently, is how can we bring SEO experimentation in alongside an existing experimentation program where we're running user experience and conversion rate tests? And the answer is, thankfully, I think it's straightforward and it's valuable, and it isn't that hard, because it's very similar to the process that you need to run your existing on-page SEO program in the presence of a product and conversion rate testing program. And so in summary, that's about understanding, is this change I want to make and this test I want to run in an SEO context, how risky is it? And does it conflict with any of the planned initiatives and planned tests, running tests on the product side? If it directly conflicts, we're going to have to wait until those tests are complete, and we're going to have to coordinate, and that's just a normal human to human interaction. Most tests are in the amber category, so they need some QA and they need some consultation, and people need to be informed that they're happening, but they're not blocked from running. They're not difficult to run in parallel and at the same time. And then some tests are green, and depending on the organization, some of those can just be run with just letting folks know, hey, by the way, we're testing structured data this week. So I hope that's been useful. If you have any more questions about that, or you're experiencing this specifically in your organization, love to chat about it. You can tweet me at Will Critchlow, find me on LinkedIn as well, same thing. And if you want to speak to us at SearchPilot about any of it, head over to searchpilot.com/live, and you can chat about how to build an effective SEO testing program within an existing program. And you can also catch up and get a demo of our platform and see what we do. So the other thing I was going to talk about this week, I have a kind of recurring feature of chatting about some of the things that I'm reading, and unusually for me, so I normally do my reading on Kindle. I'm very much an ebooks fan, and so unusually for me, I'm actually reading a physical book at the moment, which is Stephen King's book on writing, which is a kind of combination of memoir and guide, I guess, of how to write well. Stephen King, obviously the famous horror author, and I've always loved his writing. Actually, I do remember being absolutely terrified reading one of his books far too young. As a young teenager, I picked up a book. I forget the name of it. It's the one where there's some kind of illness pandemic, and only 1% of people survive, and they have to trek across America, and a lot of very dark things happen. And I was pretty traumatized by that book, but I have read a few since, and his writing is exceptional and absolutely gripping. Does still make me wonder how we managed to not have any kind of age-related constraints on what you can read, unlike movies, computer games, and so forth. You can pick up any book you like at any age and read it, which is terrifying. Anyway, point being, I'm about a third of the way through this book so far, and it's typically interesting. So this is interesting. I read a lot of biographies, and so I'm interested in it in that respect, but also I definitely want to be a better writer. I'm keen to write more, and I'm interested in it from that angle as well. And there's just these incredible anecdotes. Like I discovered in the course of reading this book, obviously it's the business stuff that stands out to me, because that's a lot of my interest, but the same publisher discovered Stephen King as discovered John Grisham. Can you imagine that? Like, it seems just mind-blowing to me. I don't know how much of that is luck, how much of that is developing talent versus discovering talent, how much of it happened as a result of maybe having the first big win. But either way, just what a career. Can you imagine launching those two? I mean, two of the biggest names in fiction. Just incredible. On a slightly more work-related note, the book I've been, I guess, quote unquote, reading is, so this is one I'm listening to on Audible, if you can see that, is The Challenger Customer, which I haven't read. This is kind of the sequel to the Challenger Sale, which I haven't read, but so Matt Smith, who leads our sales efforts at SearchPilot, based out of Vancouver, has been evangelizing this and suggesting that all of the senior team who are involved with new business in any form read it. And so far, it's living up to that hype. So I guess I'm a little bit over halfway through so far. And the thing that stuck out to me so far is talks a lot. It's very research based and talks a lot about one particular concept of there's a temptation, and a lot of sales training is related to moving from features to benefits, and talking a lot about the benefit of the the offering that you have, not necessarily in the context of speaking about it as your offering, but just what would it mean to you if you had this shiny hypothetical new world. They talk about moving from A, which is the situation without your product or your capability, to B, which is with it, and the benefits of doing that. And one of the key arguments in the book is to flip that a little bit on its head and talk more about the challenges and the pain of being in state A, so being in the situation without you. And the nice thing about this is it's not about you. It's not about, in this case, it's not about me. It's not about SearchPilot. It's about you, the person I'm speaking to, and what your challenges and pain is right now. And the kind of holy grail of this is to be able to find things that we can share with our prospects and our potential customers and our leads, that find ways to show them things about their business that they didn't already know, about the status quo, about the way that they're operating right now, and in particular about extreme pain that they're going through, and showing them where that's coming from. Haven't fully processed all of this yet, but I think probably what it means is you're going to expect to hear me talking more about how hard it is to do technical and on-site SEO without testing, because it is. I'd hate now to be back in that situation of trying to do large scalable on-site SEO without the ability to test. And I think there's a number of pain points in here. So there's the challenges of demonstrating and proving the value. So the CMO or VP of marketing is asking, what's SEO done recently and how's it gone? What's working? What's not? What wins have we had? That is so much easier. That's so hard to answer without a testing program. And if you're taking a traditional approach, and no matter how good those hypotheses are, another source of pain is that our research suggests that 20% potentially of those changes are actually going to be negative. They're actually going to be damaging, maybe only a small amount damaging, but actually that death by 1,000 cuts can be some of the most painful for a business, because if you roll out a big negative, you roll out a minus 20% change, everybody spots it, and there's a fire drill. You fix it, you roll it back, you have a post-mortem, and you hopefully recover. Roll out at minus 2% or minus 3%, and that can very easily get lost in the background noise, in seasonality, in the midst of other changes, things your competitors are up to, Google algorithm changes. You may not notice that you've actually had that kind of negative impact. And so I think that's one of those key pain points that I'm hoping we can educate more folks about, that this is a thing, and it is remarkably painful for many of the folks that come to us, and we hear stories of either, we're struggling to connect the activities that we're doing to the business benefit, or we've had these situations where we've made these changes and we know that some of them have hurt us, but we didn't spot them in time. We don't know which ones, and that can be extremely painful. So I need to focus my mind in on the pain that some folks need to get away from, and from there we then need to do our job and build a product that can alleviate some of that pain. So if you're in a painful situation, if you're struggling to prove the value of your on-site SEO activities, or if you're concerned that some of those changes, 20% of your changes, might be a small amount negative, and that could be a severe drag on the performance of your SEO program, then drop me a line. I'm easy to find. Will Critchlow on Twitter or LinkedIn, or head over to searchpilot.com/live, where you can get some of the resources that I've talked about today. And also you can, if you'd like, get in touch with us and we can talk about building an SEO experimentation program, and you can get to see our platform in action. So it's been fun chatting to you today. I'll be back again next week. In the meantime, have a great week. See ya.